And yeah, I don't feel lonely making art. I also really like, what I really like about making comics is like thinking about the characters like they're real and like I've had like, I don't know, like I hear them talk in my head and stuff, like I'm crazy. So so I don't feel lonely with them. Like they're there saying shit. So it's yeah.
Um, Thank you so much for the reading.
Yeah.
I loved it. I had a question about your relationship to social media, and like how that has transformed over, like, I don't know, past 5 years, 10 years. If it ever started in some place and then like transformed to different, and if you think if like you like, do you think you would be using social media if you weren't like a creator?
Yeah, I do wonder that if I would use social media if I didn't use it for my work. I can't answer that because I don't know, but I feel like at this moment, like no, like I don't know, it just sucks. But when I started using the internet, like what, like in the early 2000s, it was so different because it was just like nerds and just weird people. So I don't know. It was like way more fun, and I met a lot of my friends. Some of them who are here through that and through like LiveJournal, and it just felt really different. Also, like the pace of it was so much different. Like you would just post something like once or twice a month or something, and I don't know. Now it just feels overwhelming because it's so fast. Like everyone's posting shit all the time, and sometimes it's not even like people. Sometimes it's like ads or like the news or stuff that you're like, why am I like letting all of this into my head? And yeah, I think it's just changed a lot, like really fast, and I feel like it's the weird thing how now everyone talks about how we hate it, but we're all on it. Like everyone's like, I hate Instagram, but we're all looking at it all the time. So I don't know. We're all like in a toxic relationship with social media right now that I hope we all like, I don't know, find something better. We deserve better.
I'm going to read a question from Jessica Campbell. Do you believe that certain cartoons or forms of drawings are more powerful, magical than others? What makes one image take hold more than another?
Yeah, I think definitely there's some that are more powerful, but it depends on different things. For me, like I would say that partly like something that is iconic, but that's like really subjective to say like what is, but something that is really easily recognizable will have more power than something that is like just, I don't know, more vague. But also on the other hand, some a character that is kind of like confusing or vague can also have a power in that because it can be represented in like different ways, whether something that is very iconic is like more stuck in just like being that one thing. And I think it's just something that depends on like how much people care for it, like just stuff that gets trendy is powerful in that moment, and everyone's talking about it, but then it's like not trendy anymore, so it's not powerful anymore. And yeah, I don't know if it's really so much that the thing is powerful in itself, or also like how much it's like the corporations are pushing it so that everyone cares for it. But
Sorry, can I just interrupt you a little bit?
yeah.
I just think that some of the best characters in all cartoons and throughout the course of history, they have a kind of history in the trickster mythology, especially it's found in Native America and South American history, and various European histories, right out of the Fox. So Bart Simpson, Mickey Mouse, all of these characters that come out in cartoons throughout the history of cartooning come from these irreverent mythological ideals
Yeah.
where they're kind of giving the middle finger to anything regarding corporations or what the man is saying.
Yeah, it's like even when the corporations try to control this like trickster characters, they still have a life of their own that transcends that. That's yeah, that's a great addition to this thought. Thank you.
Um, well, let's do another audience one, and then we can go back to the chat. If there is another audience one at the moment. Yes.
Like, I just like listening to you. It's interesting how there is this thing with perspective. Like, you zoom in and out. Like, you start like just talking from like prehistoric times to like nowadays, but then you start talking about your Digimon tattoo, which is like in your leg, right? Like it's
Yeah.
tattooed on your leg. So and you sort of like make these like giant leaps between times and between like sort of like perspectives. But I was thinking like, for example, with this, even with your graphic novel, it's about the future, right? It's a lot about like this sort of like dystopic future. um what would you think is like the future of cartoons? How would you envision it if you have imagined that?
Mm,
Could you talk a little bit about it, right? Like with artificial intelligence and social media, but I mean, if you had thought about it.
well, there's definitely like a growing power of cartoons. Like it, I think like the culture in general is human culture is very visual. Like if you think of other senses, like smell is probably the least important like sense in our culture, and well, visual culture is like really powerful and developed, and particularly now in the time that we live in, like I think like people that like me that have been around in comics for maybe like 10 years or so, that really isn't that much, but we've seen how it's grown so much and it seems to keep growing. So I think there is like a growing power for cartoons, and they're gonna be increasingly more important in the future. Like maybe I don't know, or like I think of Japan, and it's like a culture that is really idealized by many of us, and if you go there, it feels like they're living in the future, and they have a very like powerful visual culture, and there's like characters for everything. Like even I don't know, like the toilet paper will have like a cute mascot, and I think like maybe that's kind of maybe like where Western culture maybe is going. Like there will be more like prominence to cartoons in some way that isn't just like, oh, like for entertainment. But I don't know. I'm curious to see what the future of cartoons is, because it definitely seems like it's just gonna grow.
I'm going to read a question from Hector Montalvo. He says, how much does family play a part in your work in terms of spirituality or your interest in cartoons?
My family is very weird and not like a very typical Mexican family. Like my parents were atheists when, or well, they're still atheists, I think. Um, uh, so I mean, they support me, uh, and I think they definitely really encourage me with my art, and so I'm grateful for that. But I don't know how much I feel more like I'm from like the kind of person that sort of made their own family through friends and through just like my specific interests. But I definitely feel like family is a very powerful spiritual like entity that is kind of falling maybe on the side now on with the uh, the cultural warfare that I talk about. Yeah, I yeah I don't know, like I think it's yeah, I like admire people that have like a cool, you know, like powerful relationship with their families and all that. I think it's like definitely a nice support that you can have.
Is there an audience question? Yes.
I really like the idea of like cartoons being on the same level as like religious icons. What cartoons would you put on an altar for yourself?
Well, there's that Digimon character that I mentioned. I also really like Rilakuma. And he's really interesting to me. Like, it's not just like a cute bear, but he's like actually wearing a bear suit. So I've had discussions with people about like what is he really like? Maybe he's a bear wearing a bear suit, or is he like a person that got tired of being a person and put on a bear suit so he could relax? I don't know, but I think that's a very deep character.
Well, and that's like, oh, sorry.
Yeah.
That's like the thing with Hello Kitty, right? Where like her bow represents like beauty, and she doesn't have a mouth because you should speak with your actions. Like, do you know this?
No.
There's like some interview where the Hello Kitty man was like, "This is what this represents about Hello Kitty."
That's
The power
amazing.
of friendship or whatever. But it's like, you know, like it means something.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. I mean, you can also, yeah, like the cool thing about this like really simple characters is that you can like put your own interpretation into them, but that's really cool that that's the intention behind them.
There's a question from Nicole, and she asks, how do you translate big ideas into a personal, relatable story? Do you take inspiration from your life or travels?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely take inspiration from my life, but I don't think that my work is autobiographical. Um, but yeah, I don't really know how to answer your question. Like, I guess just like I just write down ideas and then I'm like, oh, how can I make this work into a story, and just try to make it work. Just push it in there. I don't know.
Is there an audience question? We're trying to go back and forth.
This is not a question, but I really love that you address magic in these talks, because I do think the same, like how magic is related with like expression as humans. So I just really like you talk about it.
Thank you.
Yes.
There's a question from someone named Dr. Ben, and he asks, do you think it's wrong to engage in, this is another, very meaty question. Do you think it's wrong to engage in exploitations of elitists and the rich? Or is that kind of okay as a matter of redistribution of wealth?
How can you exploit the rich? Or like, I don't think that's a thing. Like,
Dr. Ben, do you want to?
They exploit you. You don't exploit them. I don't even know how would you do that, but if you figure it out, just let me know and we can discuss the moral side of it.
Well, to be clear, Dr. Ben, if you want to, you're on a computer, so you're not here in the room, but if you want to respond, we can keep going.
Yeah, for sure.
Are there any audience questions? We have a couple more chat questions, and they keep popping up, so we can keep going as long as that's okay.
The deathlessness of cartoons and reincarnation as a concept. Like, you can keep killing Itchy and Scratchy or whatever. And
Yeah, that's missing. That's for the second issue. Good. That's a good. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I guess that's part of their power, that they're immortal.
Someone named Matt says, thank you for this zine. Do you have any personal spiritual or magical cartooning practices that you'd like to share that you'd recommend trying?
That's a good question, but I don't really, I don't really have like a related specific spiritual practice related to cartooning. Like I just draw. I just think just the act of drawing is like the magic side of it. But yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I like just, but that's more like writing, I guess. But I do write like stream of consciousness. Like if I feel really anxious, I'll just like write everything that I'm thinking. And sometimes I don't even read it later, but and I like writing in all caps. And yeah, but yeah, and then when I was having my psychotic break, I would think words and I would see them like visually, like like depending on the feeling of the word, it would have like maybe it would come out like smoke and evaporate, or maybe it was like a flashing light or something really aggressive. And that's something that I've thought about that I would like to draw, but I haven't done it. Like I don't really know how, because it was also very like moving, like like I mean like animated. Like it wasn't like a still image, but that felt really like magical. Like how the power of words like invokes like yeah like a feeling or whatever the meaning, and how that has also like an aesthetic power or interpretation, I guess.
Is there an audience question? You might not have time for many more. People can ask, if you've already asked one, you can ask another one. Okay, there's another chat question. This is from Generoso. They say, "Hello, Inez. Thank you so much for making Merciless. Do you feel that writing Merciless was an essential step for you personally / creatively before beginning work on cartoon spirituality?" And maybe you could explain to people who don't know what Merciless is.
Yeah, so I made a scene last year that was called Merciless, and it was like a collection of drawings and a few comics and writing that I did before, during, and after my psychotic break. And I don't think it's related to the cartoon spirituality scene really, because that was more like a sort of like a looking back on stuff that I was going through, and this is more like a new thing that I just like I just sat down and was like, oh, I want to give form to like these ideas and put them out. So I don't think it's related, but I do think that experiencing psychosis really made me more conscious of like just like my spiritual needs as a person. That wasn't something that I explored very much before, especially since, as I mentioned, like my family, they're atheists. So it wasn't really such an important part of my life to consider like that aspect of life. But cartoons were always really present for me, and I've always been really fascinated by them. So it was sort of like joining my lifelong obsession with like a new obsession or something like that. So
Ben does have a follow up, and we thank you. He says LOL. I'm thinking of artists like Kent Williams or Bill Sienkiewicz who have a foot in comics and the fine art world as sort of being able to exploit rich patrons for their fine artworks. And he says also thank you for sharing your time with everyone, and we thank you, Dr. Ben, for
I don't know those artists. Does anyone know them? I don't know much about art. We're like fine art, but I guess, yeah, I guess if you go into fine art and to make money of rich people, well, that's good for you that you can do it. I don't know. Like, I don't know how you even do that. Like, you have to suck up to them or what? Like, whatever. Like, cool.
Money laundering mostly.
Yeah, no, I know it's like money laundering, but I mean, you have to be in that in that world, and like just I don't know, like I like comics because it's like weird people that just like specific things like nerds and stuff, and like you know, like there's no, it's like hard to get pretentious about comics, I think, because there's precisely because there's no money in it. So if you are into comics, it's pretty much because you love them. Like there's not much another reason to be in them, versus with fine art, like a lot of people are in it because they just want to be part of whatever that means, and it's just you have to sift through like all this like fake crap. And I don't know, I just wouldn't personally wouldn't be able to tolerate it. But if you're like a real artist that makes like cool stuff and still like somehow manages to get into that and like get money out of that, well, like good for you. I don't think still I don't think that would be like an exploitation of the rich. It's more like you're a smart business person who's also an artist, so like cool.
Is there an audience question? Yes. Yeah, you.
I don't want to derail things, but I really want to know what Dr. Bill means.
No, let's not. I want to say the people in the chat asking their
we
questions.
can invite Dr. Ben to give the next talk.
No. I also think his question made total sense and was a good question. I mean, I appreciate the debate we're having,
I
but
just want to know how Dr. Bill thinks about Kim Williams exploited the rich. That's completely.
You know this artist?
Yeah, they're cartoonists. They're
Oh.
comic book artists.
Cool.
He's conflating selling work to rich people.
Yeah, with exploitation. Yeah.
but
Yeah, selling your work is not exploiting anyone.
yeah. I don't know how black and white it is, though. I mean, there's lots of. I mean, the comics world is not all. The comics world as a whole isn't just our slice of it. There's a money making industry
Definitely,
out there.
yeah. We could talk about Marvel, and that's like a whole fucking big business thing that is still comics, and it's like has nothing to do with what I'm saying of like unpretentious whatever. It's like completely money interest.
I just want people to keep asking questions in the chat. You know,
Okay.
I don't want to challenge because they're not here with us. We're giving them a hard time. You know. Yes.
Pretty common question.
What?
After watching that documentary about what happened to Pepe, I was pretty troubled by the whole thing. And then right after the doc came out, he started selling his work to the same people that he just gained sympathy about having stolen it, in crypto. I wonder what you think. I felt as though like that character was especially susceptible to corruption because there wasn't like a strong ideology at the core of that work anyway.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Like his whole vibe is
Agree.
all like whatever. So also like him making it into like being like a peace icon was like, I mean, it felt a little forced to me. Like I don't think he represented that before, but it's like, well, cool if now you want to give it this new meaning. But yeah, then in the end, it's like, oh, now it's meaningless again. Now it's like an NFT. I don't know, like a product, and like I mean, good for him that he's like raking in on the money from this, like I don't even know if it's the same people that were making him a meme, because those, I don't know, I have no idea what's the, who is selling, or I mean like who's buying NFTs. It's like it's also like money laundering stuff, like, and well, the few people that are getting scammed with them. So I don't know, but I, yeah, I don't really judge people for like making money out of their thing, like, but yeah, it's just like, who cares? It's like not even comics anymore. It's just like,
in terms of like the character representing something spiritual
Yeah, it never did represent more than it's just like a stoner dude. So
It's a nice design. I think that's what people.
yeah, it's pretty iconic for sure.
I think, it's a design that people can redraw. I think that's a big.
Way more than like the other guys. Like maybe Landwolf was more a character that you would think that would have been more popular, but he's not as iconic as Pepe.
Yeah. Do we have any more audience? I should also, just as a plug for the symposium, Tim Goodyear, the first person to publish Mad Fury, will be a guest here on December 6th. So, that's just of my concerns. That doesn't matter to you guys, but I'm interested.
We can go at him with the Pepe questions.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, not to derail things. Like more, are there any more audience questions? Yeah, keep going.
Who? Oh.
So you can listen. Also, it's a corollary to Brahman, which is the word for kind of the underlying consciousness of all.
Yeah.
So you say Vishnu or Brahman, and there's 1,000 names. So you can listen to that every morning before you have your Cheerio.
Beautiful.
Are there any more questions from people in the chat? We're getting towards the end, but I think we still have time to keep. Are we okay for like maybe one or two more, or should we? Okay, maybe we should start. Maybe one more question. If anybody has one more question.
Wow, just chill down, everyone. So many questions. Like Austin can stop y'all. Like
no, I'm just trying to. I got a lot of things going on. Yes.
Yeah.
So cartoons can have a role in healing, and also in terms of religious icons, and then they'll have a role in kind of hurting in terms of capitalistic society. Is this the cartoon warfare that you're kind of referring to, or is it something else entirely?
Yeah, I think we're like in a spiritual warfare, not a cartoon warfare specifically, but like a spiritual warfare in the sense that maybe like before, like even like 100 years ago or so, like everyone was into religion, whatever the religion was, like the predominant religion of their culture. And even if that had like whatever fucked up shit that was indoctrinating them, it also made it so like their life made sense. Like there was a defined sense that people knew that life had, and now we don't have that. So we're like lost in a way and like floating around, and capitalism gives you this, like sells you like, oh well, you can have like anything that you want, like because life has no meaning, or it's like then you're just like consuming, or like you'll be happy with like material wealth. So yeah, and then it's like with the virtual world now, it's like everything is kind of unreal. Like it's not just like, oh, this is the material reality that will give you a fulfilling sense. Like that's not even fulfilling really so much, because we're like, oh, I don't have enough followers, oh, people didn't give me enough likes, and it's like we're so in such an abstracted dimension of reality that I think yeah, that's why we all feel like shit like a lot of the time, or just they're just overwhelmed with stuff. And in that way, I think we're living in a spiritual warfare. And so yeah, cartoons are like part of that, but there's like many other different elements that are coming at us, or that can be utilized for healing or destruction.
Well, thank you, Inés, and thank you all so much for coming out to this tonight, and thank you everyone for watching this online. And I should say that Inés has work for sale that she's brought, zines, and I think you specifically have this zine.
Yeah, I brought
copies
some
this zine for
copies
sale.
of the scene.
Are those at the register? So if you guys are interested, those are at the register. And
You can also get them at my online store that is not just like me, but I also distro stuff from people from Mexico that you should check it out. It's called gatosaurio.com, GATOSAURIO. And yeah, I really enjoy also that, just like sharing stuff that people make from Mexico.
well, I'm just going to ask everyone watching here and watching here to come back to the symposium next week. It'll just be online. It'll start at 5 p.m. and we'll have Anke Fuchtenberger, a cartoonist from Germany, presenting. And let's just give a big thank you to Inés for making the journey here and giving the talk. Just wanted to show the people in the chat, everyone that's here. All right, bye everybody. Bye everybody online.
Bye, Austin.
Not to you guys. You guys are still physically here.
Yeah, thank you for coming.